In this series, we've heard Joseph Campbell discuss a variety of themes which developed in his half-century-long study of world mythology. The call of the hero, the vision quest, the gradual erosion of myth in our society, the essential unities inherent in myths, the tension between Eastern spiritual wisdom and the Western spirit, and many others. In this program, Joseph outlines the 4 essential functions of myth. This talk was recorded on October 7, 1983, when Joseph was 79. We've heard excerpts from it in previous programs, but have saved the best for the end. I had asked Joseph to speak on myth and transformation. What he gave us was a tour de force explanation of the role of myth in the human adventure.
Mythologies serve, and this is a main point in my thinking about this, 4 functions. And if these are not all served, you do not have a completely mythological structure. The first function is the mystical one. The realization of that transcendence of the appearance of separateness in the phenomenal world, and that the one shines through it. The Om is to be heard in all things. You don't have to hunt for it. It's here, this is it. But that's a breakthrough into the field of eternity. The second function of a mythology is so to represent the world of nature as now known, that it will be experienced as a manifestation of Om, of the manifestation of that transcendence. So that everything, everywhere, will become, as it were, an icon, carrying the mind through. It's a very simple thing. It is the essence of poetry. It is the essence of art to show the radiance shining through the forms of time and space. Joyce, in the Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, has a wonderful section in which Stephen Dedalus is discussing aesthetics and how the problem is to let everything be seen as itself, the totality of the world as will, you might see, so that the whole mystery of being is shining through each object. The third function of mythology is the sociological one. And here we find that in society and the social use of mythology, mythology does not serve for transformation. It tends to rigidify, to fix. Every mythology has served to validate and maintain a certain social order, a certain society. The transformation today that has taken place is that there are no more horizons, there are no more separate societies. The society to which we all belong is of the globe. And yet, you see what's happening. Every group is pulling back into its own in-group system of values. That's the way of separateness, forgetful of the unity. And in a condition like that of the present world, separateness is to nobody's advantage. So that there is in the world today a really political and economic value in recognizing love, in recognizing you and the other are one. It's a marvelous moment. And you know, sometimes I have the feeling that people are almost on the point of realizing that. The different interests are standing for separateness, but people recognize this unity all the time. The fourth function of a mythology, the first is the mystical function, the second is the cosmological one, and the third is the sociological. The fourth function is what I would call the pedagogical. It's that of carrying the individual through the stages of his life. And it's here that mythology can serve each of us. The normal life of a human being is about the same today as it was in the period of the caves of Altamira and Lascaux. You are born as a child in a condition of dependency. The whole psychology in the human being for the first 12 to 15 years of his life is in the mode of dependency. And if you're going through for your PhD, this will go on till you're 45. You can tell whether the person has broken through by the number of footnotes in his writing. Then there comes an essential requirement, and this is one of psychological transformation. And mythological themes and ritual practices help to make this. The individual must move from dependency to authority, must move from childhood to adulthood. And that's the crisis that Freud is dealing with in his psychoanalysis all the time. Person who is still a child to the father or to the mother and has not moved over and become the father, the mother. This can be symbolized in the way of killing the father or stepping into the father's shoes or one thing or another. And in old traditional cultures like those, well, for example, of India, there is a moment of transformation where the clothing that is worn is changed in a ceremonial occasion, and the little boy and little girl become then adults. Now, it's easier for women to grow up than for men. I taught women for 38 years, and I ought to know. Life overtakes the woman. With her first menstruation, she's a woman. She didn't have to do anything about it. The boy has to act. The boy has to assume the authority of his action. And this is the sense of the ferocity, actually, of so many of the male initiation rites. And the boy must be transformed. The girl is transformed by nature, the boy by society. He's scarified and circumcised, all kinds of things are done to him, so that he no longer has the little boy body. He's now a man. This is an important transformation that the myths must help us to find. But the transformation always takes place in terms of a given society. Then within that given society, there may be transformations further. The assumption of authorities, the putting on of the robes of a judge or of the doctor or of whatever the role is. There the individual has to learn to serve an idea, a craft, a technique, a truth, and not himself. There are mythological processes for this. And finally, then comes the disengagement. Comes a moment in life when you've really had it. If you didn't do it, it wasn't done. You can't do it now. And this business of disengaging, letting go, letting go, letting go, that requires mythological help. These are the normal transformations of a lifetime that mythology should help us to fulfill in our lives and to find in our lives fulfillment. These all have to do with the normal pedagogy of life, maturity, and death. You might say birth, marriage, and one's funeral. Those are the three great moments. But during the lifetime, there are these other transformations which I think are best symbolized, best scored and mapped in the wonderful tradition from India of the Kundalini Yoga. And you can see how life can be lived on these 7 levels. The first chakra down at the base of the body, simply uninspired hanging on to life. The psychology at this stage is what we deal with in behaviorism. There's no enthusiasm, there's no action, there's only reaction. You're living in terms of concrete facts, and, well, as I always say, I always think of dragons when I think of this. Dragons guard things. in caves. They guard piles of gold and beautiful virgins, but they don't know what to do with either of them. And so they just hang on. People like that we call creeps. This is the lowest range. Then the next, and this is the awakening that comes in adolescence, is erotic. Suddenly life is transformed. Nietzsche describes the first condition as groveling before sheer fact. There's no such thing as a sheer fact. There's only a fact for a subject. And suddenly, at adolescence, one falls in love, and that stupid fact that was only Susie yesterday is a goddess today, and you have turned her into something. And there is an initiative coming from you in your life action. There's a whole realm of religious disciplines based on this love principle, the ways of love. The 5 ways that they speak of in the Vaishnava tradition, the way of the servant to a master, the way of the friend to a friend, the way of the parent's love for the child. When the spiritual child is born in your own heart, this is the virgin birth and so forth. Then the way of love in marriage, and then just the wild, mad love of some person when it overtakes you and the world can go to pieces. When love hits you that way, you're lucky, and you're lucky if you survive it. It's a tremendous thing. That's when the separateness is annihilate and you break through to a metaphysical realization. But then comes the next level, and this is the one on which the world lives. It's that of the chakra at the level of the navel, which is of aggression, which is of winning. All politics is aggression. It has to be, because you're standing for a group, you're standing for an idea against something. It may be the most spiritual idea, but it's against what isn't spiritual. The whole aggression of the missionary movements is an example of this. Live on these 3 levels. Animals live on these 3 levels. Those are the levels of holding on to life, reproducing life, and winning. And this is what popular religions are concerned with: health, wealth, and progeny. Winning the war, God send us rain for our crops, and all that sort of thing. This isn't the religious motion yet. The next center is right here at the heart, and this is the awakening then of the hearing of the sound of Om and the stilling of the impulse. No longer is the goal out there, it's here. This is it. Following this, there comes a transformation if one really puts oneself to it, and this is what the Dalai Lama was talking about. All of one's commitments to health, wealth, and progeny fall into second place. The whole goal is the realization of this spiritual truth through one's life in action, in relationships to each other. Those become transformed. That's the transformation that has to take place. Somehow, on a popular level, the people should learn to react in their own interests while at the same time recognizing the identity of their interests and the interests of the other person. Something like this has to happen. And it's ready to happen, it seems to me. And when it happens, then you might say we come to this center here where the vision of God, where is the vision of God? It's right here in front of our face. The idea of God in the West is that God is a fact somewhere. And that fact created the world and sent energies into the world. That's a very crude idea about God. The God is a personification of an energy. It's the energy that fills the world. It's the energy of life. It's the energy of consciousness that is right in here. And if you want to see it personified, look around you. Here it is. The only personification, the only anthropomorphic manifestation of God is in men and women and children. And that kind of realization, people are ready for it, but they've been told, no. God's out there. I heard only last night from a woman who had heard me give a lecture a long time back where I had the indiscretion to say to a group of people, bring forth the Christ in yourself. That Christ power, which is Buddha power, all beings are Buddha beings, all people are Christ people. And she said, there was a priest sitting beside me, and he said, that is blasphemy. Now, when you have a religion that transforms a metaphor into a fact, you're in trouble. God is a metaphor. It's a poetic idea speaking past itself. There's a wonderful master in Germany now whom I met 2 years ago, Karlfried Graf Dürkheim. He has a school in the Black Forest. And he has a term, and when I heard it, I just became illuminated, you might say. He said, the problem with people is that they are not transparent to transcendence. They are not transparent to transcendence. The energies that pour into our body through the organs of our body are asking us to be so-and-so. And our minds have a little notion up here about what we should be. And we intend things over there. The body, the energy, the God in us wants it this way, and our mind wants it that way. Bring these together so that then you are transparent to transcendence. And all the deities must be recognized as transparent to transcendence. And a deity who says, I'm it, has closed the gate. And then you have a sect. And then you have a Mecca, but no center everywhere. There is a Hermetic text that was translated in the 13th century from Greek into Latin called the Book of the 24 Philosophers. And there we read, God is an intelligible sphere, a sphere known to the mind, whose center is everywhere and circumference nowhere. That's the same thing that Black Oak said. And that's the same thing that somehow has to get put into people's consciousness. They've got it in their unconscious, they know it, but it should be up here. I once had a marvelous hour with a wise man in India. His name was Atmananda, and he was in Trivandrum down in the southwest part of India. And at the end of our talk, he said, where are you between two thoughts? That's a good meditation. It's the thought that separates you from. And right thinking is so easy, but it must be transparent. I was reading a couple of days ago a darling little essay by Daisetsu Suzuki. You remember the Zen philosopher who was over here. He told this story. He said a young student said to his guru, am I in possession of Buddha nature, of the Buddha nature? No, said the guru. The boy said, well, I understand that all things are in possession of the Buddha nature. The birds, the flowers, the trees, the people, clouds. That's right, said the guru. All things are in possession of the Buddha nature, but not you. Not me? Why not me? Because you're asking this question. He's located himself with an idea instead of his own knowledge. Well, I read that when I was sitting on our little porch in Hawaii, where I'm now residing, thank God. And we have a lot of trees there, ironwood trees with long dangling needles and so forth. And the birds go flying through those trees. They never hit a needle. And then when they land on a branch, they stay there. They don't think, am I going to fall off? They are living in their Buddha nature, and they can't make a mistake. Not trying. I was once an athlete, and I learned too late that when you really want to win a race and have your mind on everybody else in the race, you lose. Your mind is directing you instead of your Buddha nature just doing the running you can't lose. So here's this contrast again in another plane, the personal plane, between living in terms of your concept system, your ideas, who you are, what are your values, what's good for you, and living out of what I call your bliss. The way to fulfillment, the way to transformation is to live out of your bliss. Follow your bliss. That's the personal aspect of this thing. The social aspect of myth and transformation asks that all of the mythic systems that have been built on the past and on horizoned entities of life must dissolve. They can be held to in the way of a cult, to point from Harney Peak to everywhere. To have a cult, to think about something, you have to have something to think about. And it can be Harney Peak or Mecca or Jerusalem or Benares. But then you must realize that that is a metaphor for a universal mystery that's everywhere. Now, whether that can ever get into the final political field, I do not know. I can't imagine. But it just seems to me that we must say it's probable that within our own lifetime, this breakthrough will happen. It just looks to me as though the world were aching to have this come forward. Now, as I say, when I come here and talk with Michael, I feel at home in this kind of thinking. And it's one of the lovely facts that every time I come, the new dimensions has reached new dimensions. And as Michael said, we're talking here to people who are ready for this. And there are probably enough of them. And I just want to say in conclusion that it's one of the proud moments of my own thinking of my own life that I've been able to participate in what Michael and Justine are doing here and to see how it flourishes and how beautiful they are in doing it. So my thanks to you. Thank you.
Joseph Campbell speaking at New Dimensions Radio's 10th anniversary celebration, October 7, 1983. If Joseph Campbell had merely been a great scholar, he would be remembered with respect for his groundbreaking academic work. But those who knew and interacted with him, and those who have come in contact with his work through his writings and the media, regard him with admiration for the power of his ideas and affection for the simple yet elegant wisdom he offered. As an example of the latter, we've saved the following brief excerpt from one of our conversations in which Joseph describes the fulfillment it is possible to experience with the fullness of days. If you had one thing to let our listeners know that might be of value to them in their lives, what would it be?
Well, it would be that of conquering the thou shalt as the lion and becoming the spontaneous child, courageous of your own initiative and not too overawed by authorities. The older you get, the more you realize that the authorities are a bunch of troubled youngsters. Also, don't be afraid of growing old. This is something that has come over me in the past 4 years. The realization of the wonder of age, that youth is always living with an eye to a future and achievement and moving into something, so that the present moment is always auxiliary to something to come. Whereas in age, there's nothing to come. I mean, you're there, kid, and suddenly life becomes more glowing and resonant and wonderful as is. You're moving through a luminous and joyous world all the time, and people. The people you lived for in the beginning are all gone. Life is a bubble. I mean, the Buddhist saying, like a cloud, like a passing wind. So it all is. And what seems so hard and threatening before you, that's a bubble too. And with all that, the new bubbles have a kind of self-being of their own that's very rewarding. I have the feeling that this is the life that I was being trained for throughout the whole series of years.
Joseph, as always, in the present moment, it's joyous. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Michael.
Joseph Campbell died quietly at his home in Hawaii on October 30th, 1987, at the age of 83. The following year, he gained fame far beyond what he knew during his lifetime, with Bill Moyer's public television series, The Power of Myth. Campbell's work continues to have a profound impact in the lives of millions who read his books and view or listen to his recorded talks and interviews. His rich legacy will inform the mythic work of people around the world for many years to come.